What up, S fam? It is the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to you if you're watching this now, or if you're watching this later after 4th of July. I hope you had a good 4th of July. So, happy Independence Day to everybody. I gotta apologize to y'all. I'm trying to work with some new software, and I think there was like a stream that came up, something about a prank or something like that. I apologize to y'all about that. I'm trying to work out and learn how to work this new software that I'm working with, all right? So, for the 4th of July, I just want to hit y'all with a quick video, tell y'all happy 4th of July. And on top of that, I thought that maybe I would use this time, a little bit of story time. I gotta give a shout out, by the way, to Altered Cookie. Altered Cookie had said in the comments on one of the videos, said, "Hey Sergeant, tell us how basic training went for you when you were a privet." So I'll take a little bit of time and tell y'all a little bit about how basic was for big drill sergeant back in the day. All right, so the thing that I get is that gets me about basic training, you always hear somebody from the past tell you about how their basic training experience was, or even from before when you came in basic training. I can tell y'all this much: basic training, to me, in my eyes, it seems to be getting easier and easier as the years go by. I know the Army's trying to make basic a little tougher as of now. Even me, from my time in basic, from me being a drill sergeant now to back when I was in basic training, it just seems like it was a little bit tougher. The one thing I know, I will never forget my drill sergeants. I will never forget, especially for my one drill sergeant that was my MOS. I'll never forget him. You always get one or two drill sergeants that either don't know how to call cadence very well. I think they all know how, or I think they just don't like to. So I feel like my drill sergeant that was my same MOS, I think he didn't like to call cadence. He would start calling cadence for a while and he might mess up or something, and then he ended up just going with the left, left, left. He ended up going back to that. So I remember that. I thought it was funny back in the day, back when I was in basic, because my battle buddies used to joke him and they would act like him whenever he was calling his cadence. So I remember having the drill sergeant that asked us, and I feel like I'm that same kind of drill sergeant to an extent. He sat everybody down and he talked with us, and he had everybody in the platoon. We'd go around the room, tell everybody where we was from. I think two things that we like to do or something like that. I remember back then, I used to write a lot of raps. I used to write a lot of music back then. So I had to kick a little, I think I did a little freestyle. May have been a written rap or a freestyle or something like that for everybody. And I remember being a little embarrassed, a little shy, but I did it. I got through it. I did a lot of praying through basic, because before I came into basic training, I was going through a couple of things in my life as a civilian. I was out there in the streets doing what some civilians do. I'm not gonna say that it was all good stuff that I was doing. Definitely wasn't. But, you know, I was going through a hard time in my life. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She was a big support for me. I had to leave Virginia and go to California for a couple of days. And then, you know, I realized when I was out in California that I can overcome the stuff that I was going through. So I went back to VA. Once I went back to VA, I figured I wanted to join the Army. So she's always been there to support me. I, was praying a lot at that time, so I prayed a lot in basic. I remember almost failing basic rifle marksmanship. I remember having to go and shoot multiple times for marksmanship, and I remember the time that I passed. I used to just look up into the sky, and I would just take that time and I think about God and think about what I was going through, and think about how I wanted to overcome these things that I was going through. So I did a lot of praying. I even got emotional. One time during PT, I got emotional. My wife said anytime that I think about her, just scream out her name. So I remember doing PT, and it was hard for me to do the V-up or something. So I did it and I screamed out her name as everybody counted and said a number. And I remember some people snickering and laughing at me. So I remember that. I remember things that I used to do in basic to help me get through basic. I used to, especially when it came to chow, whenever we went to the DFAC, I always thought about my family, my brother, my mom, my grandfather, and my wife. I always thought about them, so I would always eat things that reminded me of them. My brother loved steak and potatoes, so every time there was steak and potatoes, I would always get the steak. My grandfather's really big on fruit salads in the morning time, so I remember for breakfast, anytime there's fruit, always get fruit salads. My mom, she was a cook. My mom ate a lot of stuff. My mom, she loves chicken. I used to eat chicken every time, salads. And I know my wife, we used to work at McDonald's before I came to the Army. And my wife used to love the biscuits and gravy from McDonald's. So I would always get biscuit and gravy. I remember I'm not gonna say I was the perfect private. I definitely wasn't. Well, I never, brought any contraband. I remember somebody bringing some contraband and stuff like that. I do remember going to self-care like maybe twice. A lot of drill sergeants might tell you they never been to self-care. A lot of soldiers might tell you they never been to a self-care sick call, but I remember going once or twice. Used to love going to church every Sunday. I would go to church. I don't think I skipped out on one church service on Sundays. I remember a lot from basic, but a lot of it's kind of blurry. I remember catching my drill sergeant dozing off sleeping one time. We were in the AIT portion of OSIP, and I remember down at the water, we were out there building the bridge, and he was sitting in the shed because the people that worked down at the training area, they were the ones who was teaching us, who was going through this stuff with us at this time. So drill sergeant was in the shed. I remember seeing him in that chair, and he just kind of went like that, and I knew he was asleep. When I went in, drill sergeant, you sleep? He's like, oh, he's asleep. He woke up immediately. But I remember that. I had a good time in basic, man. I had a good time. I hated cleaning up after other people, but when it came time to clean, it's like on Sundays and stuff like that, I would focus on my cleaning and make sure I did the best that I could. I had a lot of good battle buddies. We had the 12 trainee sleeping bays. So it wasn't a huge sleeping bay. We had the one bay and there was 12 of us in there. I remember that. I remember my battle buddies farting all the time and it freaking stunk all the time. I had a good group of battle buddies in my sleeping bay. One of them was real goofy. Two of them, in fact, were super duper goofy. One of them I still kind of talk to every once in a while on Facebook to this day. A couple of them, I don't know what they're doing. Got out of the army. I don't know what they're doing with themselves. I had a pretty good time in basic. I don't really remember graduation too much because I remember I just wanted to get it done and over with so I can get to my wife and my mom, my brother. I remember going on passes. We would have, our little weekend passes during OSIT. I remember the first time I got to go eat fast food after basic, and I remember my stomach was jacked up when I went to Burger King and Popeyes, and I went to both Burger King and Popeyes. I remember my stomach got jacked up. I remember when I obtained the mighty nickname Private Questions because I was the private that would always ask the drill sergeant all the questions. I can't retain information. You could tell me something and like 5 minutes later, I'm gonna come back and confirm, hey, you said this and this and this, right? But I would ask those questions, and I would always ask the questions that I knew that somebody else wanted to ask but was just afraid to ask. They would tell me to ask, and I would ask, and drill sergeant nicknamed me Private Questions. And finally, I remember coming into the barracks from PT, giving my drill sergeant the greeting of the day, and he immediately telling me to shut up every single time. Good morning, drill sergeant, shut up every time, never fails. So if you were under me, if you was a basic trainee under me as a drill sergeant, you know where I freaking get it from. Now you know where I get it from. Anyway, that's all that I got for y'all, S fam. I just wanted to hit y'all with a video, tell y'all happy 4th of July. And like I said, I figured since I'm telling y'all happy 4th of July, and I remember Altered Cookie had asked me that question, and I said that's something perfect I should talk to y'all about. So I was just telling y'all how it was for Big Drill Sergeant when I was in basic training. S-Fam salute, stay focused and motivated. Y'all enjoy y'all 4th of July. Be safe out there. Deuces. I'ma holler at y'all. Drill Sergeant Lynch, I'm out.